Welcome to the Comfortable in Chaos Podcast. Strangle your demons and let's go.
Y'all need Jesus!
Somebody's watching me, and I have no privacy. Whoa, welcome to the Comfortable in Chaos Podcast. I am your host, Eric Hellberg. You know we're like Einstein, but I'm not talking about him at this introduction today. We're just going to say we're living a month and a day, man. A month and a day. Can you dig? Can you relate? All right, let's jump into business. Guys, you've heard it said, and I have found it so true in my life, especially chasing people and 18-wheelers all over the country. Showing up is 50% of everything. Some people can take that to heart. Maybe some people haven't lived it. But you may not control the outcome. You may not know what is going to transpire, but at least you have a fighting chance or a chance by which to adapt, learn more, and or develop new strategy by getting somewhere, no matter what your given endeavor is. So showing up is 50% of the whole gig. And when you are covering accounts, and in the early years, 4 to 5 states, the later years, the whole damn country in its entirety, albeit I would sub-work out, but if it wasn't getting done effectively, I would let it build in that geographic locale, get on a plane. If it was closer by, take one of my RVs or drive over there, and I would make sure that we rang the bell and made it count. And so you had to keep consistent, I'll go ahead and say pressure on these debtors and or these people that I was seeking to find and or even simply extract information from. I called it my wet blanket, more specifically the Army wet blanket of oppression. If I was to take one of those old wool Army blankets, soak it, throw it on top of your head, it really doesn't hurt, but it damn sure is bothersome. It gets in your way. You've got to get out from under it. It is very cumbersome. And if I did not have the ability right off the mark to find what I was looking for or get to where I needed to be, I would diligently hound you. Now, I would always work under the auspices of the Fair Debt Collection Practices Act. I would use my appropriate times. But even if my equipment, let's just say, was not at a residence, and it was 2 a.m, and in the example I'm going to give you, let's say I had just finished up in Brookhaven, Mississippi, and or Memphis, right across the state line. I still had some time, but I knew that I couldn't get to your home in a legal time by which to communicate with you. I could only get there later. And I was always rolling. Always rolling. Why? I had to provide that pressure on the accounts that I had open. I wanted to be the very best. And I wanted the people that I was going after to know that I was not going to quit. I would always be nipping at their heels until I got the desired result. Either pay that motherfucker off or current, or give me the damn truck or I will find it. And I would. So leaving both Memphis and Brookhaven, I shoot back down, let's say that would be southeast slightly, back over to Tupelo, Mississippi, and it's now 2 a.m. Well, I haven't been able to adequately communicate with my guy. He's been staying on the road. He knows what the situation is. I've met with his wife. He's avoiding us. He's avoiding the company that financed the tractor, and he is avoiding me, the repossession agent. But it's 2 a.m. I'm going to go ahead. I don't plan on talking to anyone, nor do I plan on even finding the tractor there, because I've been 3 to 4 times before as I come through. One time ideally just for specifically working that account, others by looking for more information and or putting pressure in the process. So my whole design was simply to put a card up on the door and or the wife's car door in the middle of the night. So when they get up the next morning, they find it. She calls the husband on the road, says, "Hey, Johnny, dude came by again. What are we going to do? He's not going anywhere. He's not going away." But guess what? 0200 hours, I turn off Highway 78, pass a logical truck stop that is very close to this house that I figured, since we're on the outskirts of Tupelo, unless he had an employer whose yard he kept the tractor at, when he was in town, he had to keep it there. So I pass right by that truck stop for the infinite number of time. I turn down this small road that is literally 2 miles away from the truck stop that goes down to the end of a cul-de-sac where my guy lives. Now, 2 a.m, I see the wife's car pulling out of the driveway. Well, where the hell's she going? She's only going 1 of 2 places. Either I've become so desensitized to that truck stop because I do not expect my truck to be there, and I just didn't look, which I did not. I just went right straight to the house, right? You can become a creature of habit. You've always got to be vigilant, though. So either the wife's heading out to go party, have an affair, or you know what? Hubby is in town, and she's going to meet his truck in the middle of the night, and the only reason she would be doing that is if they were prepping and he was getting ready to jet out again. So what do? I let her pass me. I inconspicuously go down that road a little bit, shut my lights off so she'll lose the signature. She's already further enough down. I whip a Yui. I come in. I have a general description of my tractor. I don't know the color, but I know this lender very well. I know the type of Freightliner that came from the selling dealer that they typically like to sell when it comes off fleet. And we pull in there, my brother-in-law and I, middle brother-in-law. I'm like, son of a bitch, man. There he is. All right, here's the deal. You park my excursion Aaron right here in front of that convenience store, well lit on what we would call the civilian side, not the trucker side of that truck stop. And you're going to meet me in the woods. He's backed into a stall. It's a wood line directly behind the parking stalls where the rigs park. And I said, I'll be right behind that trailer at the wood line. So I take a circuitous route around. I see my guy. He's actually at the door of his truck, and the wife has pulled the car directly in front of the tractor. And this is as I'm walking around. So I go get in the woods. My brother-in-law eventually gets the car parked. He comes meet me back there. So we're watching. And just like I began this episode, you never know who's watching you. And you never knew when I was watching you. I watched these guys for a living, night after night, month after month, year after year. Fleets, single owner ops, just like this dude, and everything in between. I never went away. And that's what it takes. Showing up is 50% of everything. And this time, our 50% was going to lead to 100%. So what happened? Well, Wife and him continue to grab what he needs to make this road trip, and they place it in his cab. And then she gives him a hug, gives him a kiss. She drives off to go back to the house from whence we just left, which tells me it's go time now, brother. But he's now standing on his running board at his driver's door. He reaches in. I have my small tool bag with me. I mean, I've already seen the situation on the ground. I know I don't need to garner entry hot wire because that tractor is running. He's got a dry van attached to it. I know there's nothing perishable. It's not a refrigerated unit, nothing like that. Plenty of stories with those, but let's stick with this one. His final straw is he reaches in and he gets his bag of trash from his last trip. He steps away from his truck and he walks to the trash can at the fuel island. And as he's walking to that trash can, that gives me all the time I need. I tell Aaron, let's go. I break sprint up too. The door is actually ajar. Tractor's running. All I've got to do is depress the airlines and we're off to the races, man. The crazy thing though is I ease out with that tractor. I know I've got a banded load in the back. Actually, it was padlocked, which made me wonder a little bit. When that dude hears his truck firing off and he's throwing his trash away, I'm telling you, he looks back, and this happened so many times, and they're all frozen in my mind. He almost spins around and flips over backwards. There's nothing he can do except watch the equipment leave. I'm at the wheel, but the bad thing is my brother-in-law has to go sprinting right by him in a direct line avenue to get back to our excursion. So he runs right by him and he says, the guy, then his head just shot back to him like, what in the holy hell? Is this Pancho Villa? I mean, who is this Mexican dude running full speed past me? So I'm just a hop and a skip from Highway 78, and I'm already on the highway. And so Aaron has to haul tail and get behind me. And I noticed the dude had a comm unit on deck, and he had a system whereby he can interface with his company. So I'm like, okay, well, I need to disable that or they're going to know exactly where I'm at. And he's calling them right now because he's got someone's load on here, and all hell is going to break loose now. So we go down 78. Of course, it's dark. I find an exit off into the woods and climb up on the top of the sleeper, find it, disable the cable, make sure the display inside the tractor is no longer working, and we are now out of comm range. And so we're like, you know what? Hell with it. We've been rolling. Let's just get, we have a little hotel that we like staying in before we get into Memphis. I'm like, let's go up the road, get us something to eat, and then let's limp on in there and catch some shut-eye, man. And we'll stash the tractor. We're going to deliver it over to Select Trucks of Memphis off Brooks Road, headed back toward the airport off 55. Well, all hell did break loose because dude calls every police organization imaginable. He calls his company. So we stop at a Huddle House in New Albany. But I didn't park the truck and trailer there. Why? Very conspicuous. I know the circumstances. My job's to get away with that equipment. So I found a little enclave, probably about 1/8 of a mile. Back that thing in there, totally dark. We walk over, we have our omelets, we have our coffee, but there's the sheriff's department. Man, they're taking calls about 2 tables over. We can hear it on their radios. They're looking for us. And Aaron and I are just kind of smirking, partly because we're so damn tired, and 2, because, you know what? We're hidden in plain sight. Long story short on that one, I start getting a call the very next morning from the lender that I worked for, and also the dealership by which we would be delivering said equipment. And they're like, Eric, dude, when can you get here? The FBI, what was the name of that task force? Oh, the FBI Organized Crime Task Force is waiting for you here at Select Trucks of Memphis. Evidently, I had stolen a boatload, of course, legally stolen, a boatload of Dell routers, servers, or something. I'm not an IT guy, but all they told me was it was the full-scale backbone of an internet system component that was worth a lot of money. It ended up back then, and this was about 03 or 04, it was about a $4.5, $5 million load. That's big bucks. And it definitely shut some shit down. And I'm going to tell you in some other stories how we have shut down whole maquiladoras, assembly lines, everything known to man. But long story short, they're like, Eric, what time are you going to be here? I purposely gave them a different time. Why? Because I knew those dicks would be waiting for me. I didn't feel like being hounded. I didn't want all the questions. And I gave them a time. I showed up an hour and a half earlier, dealt with my buddy Bill over there, signed the unit in, did a quick inventory of the cab's interior, and we got the hell out of Dodge. And you know what? After that, the liability was on them. I let the lender and I let the debtor sort out the rest of it. After all, it was his problem. He may not have created it. It could have just been the school of hard knocks, but he certainly perpetuated it. And by showing up, we ended up closing that deal. So just getting there, being present, that predisposes you to success. The only other caveat that I will give you, and the only other one that you can control as a man, and I know that my Quora buddy, formerly of SEAL Team 6 Development Group, DG operator, would espouse the exact same thing. The one thing that you can control is your effort. And in that line of work, and in that game, running and gunning, no one was going to outwork me, and no one was going to betray my effort. And it worked that night, and it worked countless others. So until next time on the Comfortable in Chaos podcast, I bid you bon voyage, my burgeoning flock.
Until next time, like and subscribe to the Comfortable in Chaos podcast.